Good morning, Boker Tov. My name is Merav Shmueli from the Barak Leadership Center. Thank you all for joining us today. We have been very privileged with three excellent speakers today. They come from three different countries, from three different disciplines, and they will offer three different perspectives on today's theme, which is the intersection of artificial intelligence, innovation, leadership, and public policy. It is my honor to introduce our first speaker, Professor Yitzhak Ben Israel, the head of the Cyber Center and the Yuval Ne'eman Workshop for Science, Technology, and Security at Tel Aviv University. Professor Ben Israel has had a distinguished career in the military, in academia, and in public service. He is a Major General in the Army. He held in the Air Force, okay. He has held senior positions within Israel's Ministry of Defense and has also served as a Knesset member in the 17th Knesset. Professor Ben Israel currently serves as the chairman of the Israeli Space Agency and of the National Council for Research and Development under the Ministry of Science and Technology. His contributions have been recognized with several honors, including twice the Israel Defense Awards. Today, he will draw from his extensive experience to speak about shaping a national AI policy for government use, the case of Israel. So I welcome you, Professor Ben Israel. Just let me say that after each presentation, we'll have time for a few questions, and at the end, we will conclude with a panel with all three speakers. Okay.
Good morning. I was asked to speak about the Israeli lessons and how did we shape our AI strategy. This is the report that me and my colleague, Professor Viatar Matania, who is also sitting somewhere here, submitted to the government after we were appointed in 2018 to repeat an exercise which I will mention immediately. I did myself almost 10 years before about cybersecurity. And there are certain things that I would like to draw your attention to the title, to the headline of this report. First of all, although the goal was artificial intelligence, we didn't use the word artificial intelligence for a reason. We use the term intelligent systems, because when you submit something to the government, you have to speak their language. And secondly, which I will mention at the end of my talk, is the word secured here, secured intelligence system. It's not by accident, but let me go back to this report. The vision and the objective were defined by, in 2018, I had a meeting with the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, and convinced him that now that cybersecurity is more or less something we control, we should go to the next stage, which is AI, with the vision to contribute to Israeli resilience, both defense and economy and everything that may contribute to the being of Israel, an open, democratic, knowledge-based society, with a very practical objective of making Israel one of the top 5 countries in the world in 5 years. This was, as I said, a repeat of an exercise I did. Here you see the front page of the previous report. Actually, it's not in English. Sadly, it's not in English. But those who do not read English, it's written here, Cyber National Initiative. Okay, and this was at. Here I was appointed with the same goal, but for cybersecurity. At 2010, and the report was submitted at May 2011, more or less the same definitions. When we did the work in cybersecurity, and I mention it because the two, AI and cyber, have a huge overlap in a way. When we did the work on cybersecurity, the reason why I was appointed in 2010 was because at that year it was exposed that someone used this technology to damage the uranium enrichment centrifuges of Iran. And the media jumped on it because you cannot ignore such a nice topic. Without bombs, explosives, someone pushed buttons and then centrifuges collapsed. And the whole world started to talk about cyber. Actually, we and Israel was not alone. We and many other countries started being involved in developing cybersecurity, not in 2010, but some 30 years before, at the beginning of the 80s. And the reason why we started doing it at the beginning of the 80s was very simple. Computers, as you know, we have this, what we call Moore's law, are shrinking all the time, and the performance is doubling every year and a half or so. And therefore, because the physical size goes down and down and down, there are more and more applications that were not possible even half ago and are possible now. And since the beginning of the 80s, people started to store information in computerized media. Now, imagine yourself, you are an intelligence service, and your mission in life is to get this information. It's not stored anymore like it used to be in a physical file. You must find a way, you have to find a way to hack into the computer to take this information out. That's why Israel, the US, Russia, France, many other countries in the world, more than 10, started at the beginning of the 80s, without calling it cyber operations, started to develop these technologies that will enable us to hack into computers. Then the next stage was in the 90s, after some 10 years of playing with it. People realized that once you are able to hack into a computer and you are already inside somewhere there, then you can use this not only for doing something to the information stored in the computer, but also, in many cases, computers are controllers of some physical other systems. What worried us mostly was what we call critical infrastructure systems. I mean, you cannot produce today power, for example, or control the water supply here in Israel without computers involved in the system that are controlling certain subsystems. Once you are inside the computer, you can use this to cause some damage to the system that is controlled, let's say the turbines that produce power or other examples. And then suddenly the cyber technology that was used for intelligence, for something in information space, started to be used, at least potentially, as a weapon. A good example is those centrifuges I mentioned before. 20 years after we realized it, those centrifuges, the rotation is very fast. They were controlled by controllers, which, if you open the box, you find yourself a computer chip, controllers, and the controllers, someone hacked into those computers and those controllers and changed the rate of rotation in such a way that the centrifuge collapsed. This happened in Israel in the 90s. actually the beginning of the 90s. At 92, me personally, I initiated and convinced the Chief of Defense Forces, Israeli Defense Forces. I mentioned his name because his name was Barak, same guy of this center. Convinced him, and he asked me to set up a new unit, offensive. Today we will call it offensive cyber unit, today. At that time, cyber was not a word used by anyone, so we called it computer warfare unit, and this happened here in Israel. The unit was already operating in 93. Then, after playing with this information for few years, we realized that this new type of technology can be very effective against only one country in the Middle East, because in most of the Middle East, they still use manual control of, let's say, I mentioned power production or other systems. There is only one country which was fully controlled by computers, and this is, you can guess, Israel. Okay, so I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister in 99 and told him, I'm quoting now myself, told him that one day everyone will realize the potential of using cyber technology not for intelligence services, but for as a weapon. And then, in this day, the advantage that we have today is 99, will turn in one day into a huge disadvantage, because we are much more vulnerable than all our neighborhood here in the Middle East. The Prime Minister, you can guess his name, it was the same Chief of Defense Forces, Barak. He took it seriously, of course, and then he, 2-3 years afterwards, after 2 years of staff work, etc., Israel was the first country in the world to set up a new government agency which will be in charge of cyber protection of critical infrastructure. Okay, now, what we did there, and the same for AI, the same is to understand that we are not dealing here with a question of technology. I mean, this is not, without technology, nothing will happen. But technology is only one element, and if you want to be a leader in certain technology, in this case cyber or AI, it's the same, you have to do major changes, at least in 3 different communities, which not communicate easily one with the other, okay? One of them is, and this is the basic issue, perhaps, you have a new technology, you need a lot of knowledgeable people, okay? In 2010, it was people understanding what cyber security is. In 2018, and it was AI, okay? But you need a lot of knowledgeable people. But until that, it's very difficult to believe. It's hard to believe. But 2011, when the plan I submitted to the government about cybersecurity was approved and budgeted and started being implemented, 2011, there was not one university on the globe, I'm not speaking about Israel, on the globe, in which you could go and study cybersecurity. Like Middle Ages, okay? This was only less than 15 years ago. Less than 15 years ago. So one of the recommendations, obviously, was we should, at every research university, not colleges, every research university, we should build a new center for cybersecurity. And of course, teach cybersecurity accordingly. This is what universities usually do. Where do the students come from? Normally in a normal country, it's coming from high school. Here in Israel, we have in between university and high school many times another school that we call military service, because it's compulsory for every 18 years old boys and girls. They never heard about cybersecurity. It's not in the university. Where will the students come from? You should find some source. So we decided, and as far as I know, we are the only country until today that is doing it. We have in Israel at the end of high school what we call matriculation examination. It's a test, an examination issued by the government, by the country, the same day to all the graduates of high school. Subjects, some of them are obligatory, some of them you can choose from a small list of subjects. We added to the list cybersecurity. We had many problems at the beginning to initiate it because there were not enough teachers, but now 15 years afterwards it works smoothly. If you are a high school student and you choose cybersecurity, school has to teach you. After it took us some 5 years or so to overcome these problems of teachers, etc. It's like a hen and egg problem. After we did it, they decided in the Ministry of Education to go. I have a grandchild, age is now 4th grade, age 10. He told me a few weeks ago, you know, Grandpa, I have homework now to do in cyber. Age 10. I mean, what are you speaking about? He said, yes, and then I realized they don't teach today in elementary school. They don't teach students how to write codes and things like this, but they teach them how to behave in this world. What you should not post in your social networks. How to behave in this world. Like we teach, as you see in the picture, we teach kids at that age how to cross the road. Cars are dangerous. Today, 2025, you have to teach them how to live in this new world in which not cars may go over you, but certain applications, social applications, etc. And the same, I'll speak immediately what were how we applied those to AI as well. And then we said, okay, if you want to be one of the top 5 countries in the world, you need an industry. It's not enough to have military units, which we had for 30 years. It's not enough to educate people, to teach them what cybersecurity is. You need an industry. But you cannot build an industry from the roof, from the top. Okay, this should be built from bottom up. Israel is known to be a kind of startup nation, which means we have a huge cycle of new startups born every year. It's around 1,500 startups every year. I have in my office here, I would say once every 2 days, a group of young people, younger than my sons, that come to my office and ask me, what is my opinion of their idea because they want to set up a startup. Before they open their mouths, I know there is 96% probability, a priori, that they will fail. Because this is the rate of success of Israeli startups, 4%. 4%. 96% of failure, still we have the culture, me is one example, okay? We have the overall culture here in Israel that takes them seriously because you cannot tell from the beginning who will be the right 4%. The culture of trying to push them, all of them, until natural selection will do its work, okay? So you have to build from startup. But certain startups become grown companies and then even unicorns, and you have some results. Since 2021, more or less, Israeli share in the global market of cybersecurity is around 10%. Now, you all know that we are not even 1% of the population in the globe, not even 0.1%. Close to 0.1%, but not more than this. 10% of the global market is significant. What is those startups that I mentioned, okay, 4% succeed. Some of them become grown companies, some of them become unicorns. If you look at 20, these are the numbers for 2020. Today it's even bigger, they told me a week ago. You look at the number of unicorns, cyber unicorns on the globe. Some 1/3 of them are Israeli unicorns, around 200. 200 Israeli unicorns in cybersecurity. It's a huge number. This is what happens with the 4%, okay, at the end of the day. And what is more impressive is today it almost run by itself. I mean, at the beginning, the plan I submitted needed budget from the government. Today, all the investment needed come from abroad. And when I wrote the report, I wrote that if we do everything right, we will be able to attract at least 5% of the business sector investment, global business sector investment in cybersecurity that will come to Israeli companies, and with a little luck, 10%, okay? In 2011, it was 18%, and still went up, and as you can see it from 2021 on, it's more than 40%. More of 40% of the global investment by business sector, I'm not speaking about investment by governments because data is difficult to put hands on. By business sector, more than 40% of the global investment in the US, China, Hungary, Bulgaria, you name it, and it goes to Israeli companies. And therefore, at 2018, I was invited to the Prime Minister to raise a toast because we crossed the 18% more than the 10% promised, with luck. I took advantage of the opportunity and convinced him to initiate, and he appointed me and Professor Matania to repeat the exercise, but this time with AI. Now, we all know the stories about Turing, who, as a student, wrote an article with the headline, "Can Machines Calculate?" Not many of us know that this was in the 1930s. Not many of us know that in the 50s, after the first computer was built by Neumann, by the way, he wrote another article with the title, "Can Machines Think?" In Hebrew, we say to calculate, we say לחשב, and to think, we say לחשוב. It seems almost the same thing, but it's, as we all know, it's entirely different. In other languages, it's not the same. They're using different words. Can machine think? And this was in this, by the way, in this article, which I still have 52, I have a copy, already mentioned there, neural networks, machine learning, all those terms that today are essential part of what we call AI are already mentioned there. Of course, why we didn't see it 50 years ago in real life, the main obstacle was the capability of computers. In order to do all these algorithms, you need a huge speed of computing, and at that time, machines were not at that. In the first computer in 47 could do 16,000 operations per second. Okay, 60,000 operations per second. The chip I have here can do some 10 billions per second. Latest version of Apple. Okay, 10 billion. 16,000. And this was a huge obstacle, and only, I would say, in the last 10 years, 15 years, something like this, the speed of computing needed for those algorithms became high enough that people started to go deeply into AI without the need they could do it without the need to go to one computer that is somewhere in the cellars of the CIA or something like this. Okay, normal computers that universities and research centers use. AI, of course, is much more applicable than cybersecurity, although we speak here about two different aspects of computer technology. It's much more applicable. Cyber is something that we understand what we can do with it. In AI, you can apply it to healthcare, to transportation, to God knows what. Every field. There is a professor here at Tel Aviv University who developed an AI algorithm, fed the machine with the book of Josiah from the Bible, asked him how many authors developed it, and the answer was two different prophets called Josiah. Surprisingly, fit the answer was according to the Jewish traditional that the book of Josiah there were two prophets. The problem is he fed the book of Jeremiah and it said 4. This is another problem, but only to give you an example that the range of application for AI is even if you want to research the Bible, okay, or something like this. It's not limited to something which naturally is connected in our mind with computers. And therefore, the potential, I told you that in cybersecurity, our share in the global work is something like 10%. The global market, 10% of the global market is something between above $15 billion a year. If we speak about cybersecurity, you see the numbers are 1-2 orders of magnitude bigger. And therefore we say in this report that we wrote that if we will be able to put our hands, that Israel will share of sales of 10% of the annual growth, it's enough. Okay, in Israeli terms, it's something like 20% of the GDP. And this is, by the way, currently the income coming to Israel from all sources, investment, sales, etc., to Israel in a year, last year, 2024, was some 15% of the GDP from AI and cyber together. How did we do it? As the same, you remember those, I told you before about cyber. In this case, AI is much more applicable, so we divided it into some 14 different sub-subjects, or 15, which I will not describe each one of them because for this I will need a few days, okay? And I have now some 15 minutes or so, including questions. But some of the teams, we had sub-teams, some of the teams dealt with infrastructure like, okay, speed of computing is important. What can we do here in Israel to increase it, not to be dependent on one or two computers that are not positioned in Israel and things like this? Should we go to supercomputers, computing in the cloud? Should the cloud be Israeli cloud? And our recommendation was yes, we need to build an Israeli cloud. We call it Nimbus. What rate should we and how much should we invest in the next stage, which is quantum computing and things like this? Some of them were national projects, and all in between. I mean, AI, our recommendation is that every student in this university, not only in this university, will have a course in AI. If it's in the exact faculties, it's AI. If it's in the other faculties, like social sciences or political, they should have a course in how to use it. Not to develop algorithms or something like this, but like my grandchild, to live in this world, you need to know today how to use whatever AI is at every university. And overall, we divided it into these three columns. First, we need the infrastructure. As I said before, it's not only physical, it's mainly human capital. Similar recommendations that we did for cyber, research centers, data, of course, and then national projects. You can see it, but the main issue here is this 2 billion shekels, which is for the foreigners here is around 500, something like $500 million, a little bit more than $500 million per year. It's per year for 5 years. If it will work as the cyber plan worked, we will not need it afterwards. I mean, this is more or less what happened with cybersecurity here in Israel. And the projects, only to give you a test of it, transportation is almost obvious. I mean, we have everything almost already there. You can control with AI algorithms, machine learning algorithms, control the traffic lights to reduce significantly the jams. This is a very simple project. Public health, we found, as we found by the way with cyber, that the main obstacle is not technology at all, it's other human issues, okay? You can, if you take for example, the genetical data files of people here in Israel, and the other data we have on every citizen here, and you cross them together, and you put a machine to read it and learn, and it will find immediately things that can improve our health significantly, but people don't agree. If they have a serious illness, they will sign anything you ask them to use the data. But if you tell them that we want to take your data and process it with AI, computer, etc., to draw certain conclusions about the health of, how to improve the health of our citizens, they don't agree. I don't know if it's everywhere in the world, but this is one characteristic of Israelis, and if you do something, they will sue you. I mean, it's not only don't agree and you can ignore them, or the government can decide to do it, they will sue you. You, the hospital, the research center, everything, and it's almost impossible, not because technologically it's easy. So this is one good example. one of the group, we had some 300 people participating in those 15 groups. One of the group came with the idea that he knows, he said, a certain community which is not really sensitive about its privacy, never sued anyone. They have some diseases which are related to their genetics, and you can do whatever you want to improve their health, and they will never sue you. And he was speaking about plants, not human beings, plantation plants, okay? Not even animals, because there are human beings which wouldn't let you do certain things to animals. They have their own rights. But plants still, you can do it. So we added agriculture, as you see here. It was not at the beginning. We added AI project in agriculture in order to bypass this. And now what happened to this? We submitted the report in 2019. As we all know, 2019, I came to the Prime Minister, gave him a draft, told him what will be our main recommendations, and he asked me, okay, what will be the next stage? I said, next stage, like we did with cyber, now you convene the government and approve the plan and approve the budget and start running. But this was a year after we were appointed, that is June 19. June 19, as you all know, April 19, 2 months before, the government fell. And according to Israeli law, what we call the interim government is not allowed to approve new budgets. So he told me, this now is June, in August we are going to have a new round of elections. I will win. You come in August 2 months, and then we will approve the budget. He lost. And then overall we had some 5 rounds. In between there was another government by Bennett, who, it was very easy to me, it was a matter of half an hour, he was convinced, the new Prime Minister, because his background is from this cyber and AI activity. So he ordered the Finance Minister to add it to the budget, Mr. Lieberman, but his government fell before the budget was approved by the Parliament. So until today, and then we had Netanyahu coming back and the war, and until today it was not approved. I mean, this plan that sits on the desk of every ministry here in Israel, it was not approved. Because it's Israel, the picture is not totally black. It's about leadership, by the way. It's not totally black, because all those, who were these 300 people that prepared it? Many of them we took from the government, from certain agencies, and everyone came back to his office, and some of them could start whatever was recommended without being ordered by the government. This is Israel. Okay, for example, the head of the team that specified the mechanisms that we recommended to add to encourage startups to be more active in AI than in other fields. The head of the team was the chairman of the Innovation Authority. And this is his job in normal life, okay? So when he came back and he has a budget that he decides how to divide this budget between certain subjects. He didn't need to wait. So if you look at the number of startups, for example, I think I have it here. I don't remember, but I'll tell you. Number of startups, if you look at startups, AI startups today in the world, on the globe, you will not be surprised to find that some 40% of the AI startups are located in the US, in the USA. China, which has 3 times, 4 times more people than the US, 5 times more people than the US, has only 12%, but China is number 3. Number 2 is Israel with 20%. This is because the Innovation Authority doesn't have to wait. Another good example is defense. Defense, unlike all the other ministries in Israel, which the budget is divided into some thousands of lines, and you are not allowed to move money from one line to another line unless you get the approval of the financing committee, of the budget financing committee of the Knesset. Defense gets one whole number, and they can decide what to do in between. So they took everything which we recommended to do with AI-related defense issues, and you saw it, by the way, in this recent war. They took it seriously and they did it. But so the picture is that we have many islands, or for example, the Israeli cloud. Okay, there are islands of light, but the overall program was not initiated, and this is very serious from my point of view, because you cannot really be one of the leaders in the world if, I mean, the advantage that we have as a small country is that we can come with a coherent plan and not only do technology or only academy or only this and only that. You can see there are many measures that I took from here. Still, without initiating it, still we are rated in the world. If it's per capita, we are number 1. But if you look at absolute terms, we are rated somewhere in the between. If you look at the first 10 countries in the world, we are somewhere between number 5 to 7 or something like this. Okay, different measures, different. So we are still in a good shape. We lost a few years. It's not too late. Now, 2 last comments, and by this I finish my presentation. One is about when I say cybersecurity. Usually, when we say cybersecurity, I mentioned intelligence and physical damage, and of course crimes, and et cetera, et cetera. But nowadays, we all realize, especially here in Israel after the recent war, that another field related to it is what we call influence operations. It became much more effective than it was 5, 10 years ago because of the use of AI, and especially generative AI. Okay, and I got a new blessing from Leonardo DiCaprio in Hebrew, much better Hebrew than mine. He said, "אני מאחל לך עושר ועושר." I mean, I cannot pronounce the right as he said it, and of course this was a product of generative AI, and one can use this for these operations and things like this, and it's very strongly related to AI. We started developing technologies against this type of intervention in our life, what we call influence, seriously only in the last 2 years or so because of the war, because we suffered from the use by our enemies of these fake campaigns, and it's based not on, I mean, how do you know that something is fake? Not by comparing it to other, I mean, not by the content, not by comparing the content to other sources, but by the behavior it's spreading in the network using bots, and it's more technological than content. And the last comment is this is the last, something which is many people realize that today cybersecurity and AI overlap because you can use AI to improve your security, and you can use AI by the other side, by the bad guys, to find weaknesses in your system and to hack into it. But there is something which is deeper that I would like to draw your attention to, much deeper. Let's say you do some AI and you succeed in transportation or healthcare or something like this. The more AI will be successful, I hope it will, the application of it, the more dependent the society will become on communication between people and computers. Many things that are done today by human beings will be done by computers communicating with human beings. And therefore, there will be more weaknesses, more vulnerability for the bad guys to use to harm the society. When I say bad guys, can be other nations, can be crime organizations, can be terrorist groups, can be everyone, okay? The more AI will spread, applications will spread, the more need will be for securing it. That's why I told you at the beginning, we called it the secured AI. This is one of the emphasis we put in our plan, and by this, I finished my time.
Thank you very much for such a comprehensive presentation. I think your own leadership in this field is very apparent. And we have time for some brief questions if anyone wants to ask. Yes. Can you hear him?
Thank you, Professor, for your great lecture. It was really insightful. I have a question. You just emphasized the impact of computerized systems. Is there any act that can prevent all those attacks? I mean, what about governments? What about regulation? Are they aware about this problem? I mean, it's very serious if you're not pay attention about this.
This is like anything in life. You have some threat, you can do something against it. If you ask me about preventing it, I mean, blocking it, nothing in life can work 100%, nothing. Okay? But it's like you try to prevent people to break into your house. When I was a kid, we didn't even lock the doors. Okay? Today, I have in my house alarm system. It's connected to my smartphone, cameras, physical, איך אומרים סורגים? Bars on my windows, and things like this. Still, some 3 months ago, someone broke into my house. Okay? I was very, this is usually what is the case. By doing this, you, most of the normal criminals cannot break into your house, but certain percentage of them, which are sophisticated enough and they know how to deal with the electricity and things like this, it is, as it was in my case, they know what to do. Okay? Same here. We neglected certain areas like fighting, like protecting ourselves against inflation operations. We can do a lot in order to decrease its damage, but not to prevent it. This is, but this is like crime, okay? We live with crime for 300,000 years at least, since I started to take the starting point of Homo sapiens, okay? And we do a lot of things in order to, what? To eliminate crime. To reduce it to a certain level with which we can live. Okay? This is more or less the, yes.
We'll take 2 more questions.
First of all, thank you. My name is Idan. I just wanted to ask that we all know that there's a big problem with AI machine learning, that it doesn't count for the truth. It just looks for the next word. How do you think that in academia we can make AI give us true answers that we can use in research and not only on papers or work and stuff like that?
Well, it's a good question, what truth is. And actually I give a course on it, so it's 40 hours, and I don't want to force you sitting here 40 hours. You speak about, not about AI generally, but about what we call machine learning, okay? We teach the machine to do something, which means they based everything you ask them afterwards, if they don't have hallucination, and this is also a problem, they base their answers on whatever they find in certain sources of data. Is it, I mean, let's say every site says something, every source of data says something. Is it true? Okay. First people that came from Europe to Australia, this was some few hundred years ago, were surprised to see black swans. In Europe, all the swans until that time were white. So they thought the truth is that all swans are white. I mean, you can look at and see, all swans are white. So they said, okay, this bird is not a swan, they gave it a different name. Took many years to understand that it's exactly the same bird with some, only the pigment of the feathers is different. So today we know that it's not true that all swans are white. Now what the machine learning is doing? You teach it, you train it, okay? You train it, which means you give it many examples at the beginning, okay? And it finds at the beginning you had to say, to supervise it, to tell the machine that this is a dog, this is not a dog, this is a dog, this is not a dog, etc. And then if you after certain, if it was trained enough, could tell you what a dog is, what if there is if the picture contains a dog or not. And today we don't even do this. We give them the photos of the dogs, and the machine finds by itself. Okay, this is what we call deep learning. Finds by itself what are the parameters, and then what is common to all the pictures of dogs that he used, without the machine knowing even why. I mean, find something common, cannot. This is what we call the problem of explainability. Same like human being. If I'll ask you, you are now a student, ask you, is the sun going around Earth? You will tell me, of course not. Okay, Earth is one of the planets going around the sun. But I'll tell you, now look at the sky. When we entered this room, the sun was there, now it's here. How can you tell me the sun is not going around Earth? What will you tell me? You'll tell me, well, you know, Earth is a sphere, and it rotates around itself. But the whole sphere rotating around itself is going around the sun, and the rotation is what gives you the impression that the sun is moving. Okay? This is, how do you know this is true, by the way? It's a different logic. It's not inductive logic. And the problem is as common to those machines as to human beings, our brains. That's why not many people are are really engaged and good in physics. It's not because it's something difficult to study. It's a different logic. I hope you got the point.
Thank you. One last question.
Thank you again for a great presentation. I wanted to ask about the impact of the cyber attacking improvements alongside the cyber defense, and what is your opinion about the criticism that as far as we advanced with cyber, then we go back actually to hard copies. There are articles that saying that a lot of companies with sensitive information are going back to hard copies because of the fact that we're so advanced. So we advanced so far that we went back. So I wanted to hear about your opinion about that.
Well, do you go back to hard copy?
Personally, yeah. I have a 10 terabyte in my house to store everything. Not that it's so sensitive,
And
but
you don't use anymore your soft copies?
of course I do.
So what do you... So the question is, should we use soft copies or not? Not should we go to hard copies, no? If you use your soft copies, I guess you don't copy everything, hard copy everything, because it's impossible. So it's not a criticism. It's a reaction of some people to the risks of using computers or communication, computers communication, okay? It's a reaction. Now, since the first days in which Homo sapiens, or even before, went out of the cave, they found new risks. Animals, I mean, dangerous animals, okay? Things like this, a new risk. Some of them went back to the cave and didn't go out anymore. It cannot happen, even. I mean, you can say this is a risk. So what? Should we go back and don't use this? When they introduced cars in New York, not much more than 100 years ago, people, there was a problem because those new cars ran over people. People were killed. Today, by the way, it's very important factor. Cars kill people, accidents and things like this. So they had a regulation in New York. In front of the car, someone should walk with a bell or light in the night and shout and tell the people around, be careful, here is coming a horseless wagon, may go over you. But imagine yourself, they would, instead of this, they would choose not to allow cars to go on the streets. Okay? Where were we today? In the cave.
Thank you.
Thank you.